Hey, everybody. Welcome to Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. As always, we're glad you can be with us, and we hope that today's devotional is an important part of your week. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pastor Jamie from here at Good Shepherd, and this little thing down here is a mic that I'm trying to see if maybe it makes the recording a little more clearly. So, as I look at myself for the moment, I kind of feel like I'm on like ESPN radio or something like that. But um, sorry I wasn't with you last week. I wasn't feeling well with some sinus issues, but I'm back this week and ready to go. So I'll be using the text for today, Wednesday, September 29th, the daily text. And I'll be reading from Matthew chapter 18, verses 6 to 9, which probably sounds a little familiar if you were watching worship this weekend, where we talked about a very similar story in the Gospel of Mark. But today it comes to us in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus said, "If any of you are part of a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for you if a great millstone were fastened around your neck and you were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of stumbling blocks. Occasions for stumbling are bound to come, but woe to the one by whom the stumbling block comes. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter the world life maimed, or lame, than to have 2 hands and 2 feet and be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with one eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the hell of fire." Here ends our gospel reading today. Well, we're just going to jump right into the middle of it today. At the beginning of this passage, Jesus is talking about letting little ones into the kingdom. And then Jesus just goes off on this tangent about tearing off and out different parts of the body that may cause us to sin. In this text, when Jesus quickly pivots to a whole slew of commands about cutting off body parts in their lives, causing them to stumble all on their own, here's what we see the command to love God at work. Remember that Jesus in Matthew told them that in order to save their lives, they had to lose it. Here we see him return to the concept of ruining their lives now in order to gain eternity. In turn, Jesus says to remove hands and feet and eyes if they're leading us to the road of Gehenna, which was the place of punishment. What Jesus is trying to get across to them is that they have been so focused on excluding others that they have lost sight of the things that could actually exclude them. By using hyperbole, do we really think that Jesus wants them to literally cut off their body parts? Most scholars say no, but a little more on that later. Jesus is attempting to grab the disciples' attention and shake them loose from their set way of thinking about things. Focusing on externals, especially the externals of others, leads to an idolatrous act of thinking of ourselves as God. And this, in turn, usually leads to a pattern of becoming blind to our own sin and our own shortcomings. If we stopped and practiced some self-examination every now and then we risk jeopardizing our feelings of superiority and will likely be confronted with our own idolatry, that we love ourselves more than we love God. If only we could stop building walls, one stumbling block at a time. Well, this is quite a segue. Jesus has just surprised his disciples by drawing a child to his side and insisting the greatness of the kingdom of God consists of being humble. That is, knowing your vulnerability and need like a child. And then all of a sudden, he's talking about millstones and punishment and all the rest. What a shift in topic. Or is it? Jesus had just said that true greatness lies in becoming like a child. And a huge part of being a child, and therefore like a child, in the ancient world is being vulnerable and without power. Jesus therefore not only calls his disciples to be like children, but also aligns himself with these powerless and defenseless believers by speaking against any who would cause them to stumble. I wonder where there is a subtle shift of focus going on here. When Jesus names these little ones who believe in me, I wonder if he's talking not only about the particular child in front of him, or even all the other children around, but also about his disciples. That is, those quite literally who have believed in him and become like children. If so, then he is perhaps both warning the disciples to take care of all who are vulnerable and defenseless, especially children, and at the same time also promising the disciples that he will look out for all those who believe in him, including his disciples who have acknowledged their vulnerability and their need to come to him like children. This would likely have been a powerful word in Matthew's community, as most scholars believe that they were experiencing significant dislocation and disruption and vulnerability. Jesus is promising them and all his disciples since then that he will look out for them, even as he exhorts us to look out for all others who are also vulnerable. And just a word or maybe two about these exhortations that we would likely more accurately call warnings. First, there is no question at all that Jesus takes this business of placing stumbling blocks seriously. I mean, what exactly those stumbling blocks are, however, is less clear. It may be a warning to those in Matthew's community who were urging believers to desert their faith or return to their previous traditions. Or it may be something else entirely. We just don't know, and so should probably exercise both humility and caution as we interpret these verses. And the second thing is, I always find it interesting how many folks take the first half of Jesus's warning as hyperbolic exaggeration. That is, we really don't think that's what he wants us to cut off all our body parts that sin. But we read the second part of the warning about the eternal fire quite literally. Almost every time Jesus mentions hell or eternal fire or the place of gnashing of teeth, he is either speaking in parables or using hyperbole. Why then do so many pull the thread of hell to the center of their understanding of the Christian faith? And has that theology of itself, hell itself, become a stumbling block for so many of God's children? How do we pick and choose what exactly we stumble over? I wish I had the answer to that, but I think it gives us all a little something to think about this week. Well, that's all I have for everybody this week. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can join me again next week. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other.